Top story: with just 34 days until the midterm elections, the Democratic and Republican parties are fighting to convince voters that they know the perfect shade of paint to make our crumbling democracy pop. The leader of the Republican Party, former president and guy on a flight to Riyadh trying to stuff a nuclear warhead into the overhead compartment, Donald Trump, is facing new startling accusations related to his latest treason gaffe. Meanwhile, the leader of the Democratic Party, President Joe Biden, wants to keep the nation's focus on how Republicans will ban all abortions with one exception. The man might run for Senate one day on a platform of, "I played football." But the military cable news industrial complex is trying to sneak in a quickie world war.
As Putin is encountering these difficulties, I think it's now time to remove some of the restrictions that we've put on ourselves.
Air and missile attack, which would be devastating on everything he owns inside Ukraine.
We will continue to support the Ukrainians, as you've heard our president say, for as long as it takes.
Doubling down on sanctions, doubling down on export controls, ranging all the way to a nuclear response of our own.
You know we're having a robust debate on the merits of military intervention when the only options laid out before the American people are, "We should do it," or "Come on, we should do it." Joining me now to roll down the windows of truth, let the scoops blow through our hair, and make the news memory of a lifetime as Democratic strategist in the background of every single shot of Hillary and Chelsea's new Apple TV docuseries, Lydia Parker.
Good evening.
Chief Washington Bureau Chief, whose cat is the alpha in the relationship, Jonathan Keene.
Hello.
From Washington, Chief Field Correspondent who got his job fair and square over his sister, James Smartwood Jr.
Hey.
And CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent, and if I were the luckiest boy in the world, my dad, Major Garrett.
Great to be with you.
Major, obviously there is no conflict on earth the United States should not get involved in, but how does Biden spin America turning into an irradiated hellscape to his advantage in the midterms?
So one thing that's true about President Biden, unlike his most immediate predecessor, he doesn't watch TV and take the advice of generals on TV to chart his military strategy. He charts it on his own. And one thing I would say about the military generals currently on TV, they either were directly or indirectly involved in two of America's most recent wars, Afghanistan and Iraq. Not necessarily regarded as absolute victories. What's clear in Ukraine is the people there, with the assistance of U.S. military equipment, are fighting just fine on their own.
I don't know. I'm sure Russia would be a cakewalk compared to Afghanistan. Panel, jump in here.
You know, it's not the media's job to offer a nuanced counter-narrative to war. It's our job to stand firm with the brave, noble people of Ukrainistan or whatever country we're talking about.
I think military intervention in Ukraine is inevitable, and I would say that even if I hadn't received $400,000 from Boeing to deliver a 7-second speech.
Unfortunately, we live in unprecedented times where it's impossible to discern reality from fiction.
Do you want to go again there, Junior? I'm not sure you nailed it.
Unfortunately, we live in unprecedented times where it's impossible to discern reality from fiction, but I feel pretty good about this one.
Yeah, this war's fine.
Yeah,
we got it.
The broad strokes.
Now, the news media is trying to go inside the head of Vladimir Putin like his critics go flying out the sixth story of their hospital windows. For more, let's go to our Chief Washington Bureau Chief, Jonathan Keene. Keene, can you explain the inner workings of Vladimir Putin's psyche while also explaining why you're naked right now?
Well, I sure can, James. I wanted to get inside the mind of Putin when he's isolated and embarrassed. And the only way to do that is to isolate and embarrass myself by getting naked.
I see. And what have you been able to glean about the Russian tyrant?
Well, there's no denying that Putin is feeling uncomfortable, but enjoying the refreshing feeling of his supple skin on cold plexiglass and the studio fan blowing directly on his belly button.
Look, I gotta be honest, Keene. I thought we'd go at least 5 minutes into the new season before an analyst got naked.
And you're telling me this isn't compelling television?
I like it.
I will give you that, okay?
Hey, if I could just chime in real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
I like it too.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, moving on. As we all know, our nation is still in shock after another devastating attack, this one on perhaps the greatest symbol of American democracy, my face. As you can see here, a poster of me in the New York City subway system was graffitied. Let's try to make sense of this act of cowardly evil in a new segment entitled, America Under Attack, Someone Drew on My Face. Joining us now is former director of the CIA, John Brennan. He is the author of Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. Director Brennan, thank you for missing Family Redaction Night to be with us tonight.
Thank you, James.
Director Brennan, you've said that you believe Russia is the most likely suspect behind the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline. Are you prepared to wildly speculate that the Russians are also behind this attack on my face in the 65th Street subway station?
Well, no, James. I think this was the act of somebody who wanted to deface the advertisement, the poster. This is not an act that is carried out by some type of foreign country. I think it's more somebody who was going through there and just wanted to put some graffiti on the poster. That's it.
The good news is, if we need to get some answers, the subway system allows for easy waterboarding every time it rains. Now, regardless of who's behind the subway attack, the United States needs to launch a proportional response. I think we all agree on that. How soon can we blot out the sun with drones?
Well, I think this is going to be something for the Port Authority Police, New York Police Department.
NYPD, I'm not trying to get someone killed here, John. Well, all I'll say is we need to go by the 1% doctrine. If there is a 1% chance my crotch might be defaced next, we have to act like it's a certainty. Now, in non-my-face news, Director Brennan, before you go, some critics have said the U.S. drone strike program you oversaw killed too many low-level militants and civilians who posed no direct threat to the U.S., but wasn't it worth it to let the world know America stands ready to vaporize the powerless?
I was very proud to work in the President Obama administration. I do believe that President Obama's views very much comported with mine as far as only take action, lethal action against the terrorists to stop their plans to conduct these horrific terrorist attacks against civilians only when necessary. And so therefore, I stand by our record during the Obama administration.
Oh, you didn't say Obama said it was cool. Never mind.